Today we are going to discuss about transition element. So far we are discussing about the properties of the transition element. Today we are going to discuss some of the properties. Let me take one by one. So first property we are going to discuss is catalytic properties. So the catalytic property of the transition element. So far we are taken the transition element in the elemental state or in the compound state. They are used as a catalyst in many processes. So what are all the process? What is the example for that? Why we are using as a catalyst, we can see. So first, if you are taking the catalytic property of the transition element due to first the presence of vacant n-1 d orbital. The first reason is presence of a vacant n-1 d orbital. The second, if you are going to take the reason for the catalytic properties, they show variety of oxidation state. There are two reasons. One is a presence of a vacant n-1 d orbital, and second one is to show the variety of a oxidation state. Let me give some examples for those. First one, presence of a vacant n-1 d orbital. So I am going to take an example, hydrogenation of alkene. Hydrogenation of a alkene. So simple example, we will take CH2 double bond CH2. This is an alkene. You know this is ethene or ethylene. That is hydrogenation. So a hydrogenation in the presence of a nickel. Hydrogenation in the presence of a nickel. It gives a product like that is C H like this. There's nothing but CH3 single bond CH3. This is ethane. Okay. So hydrogenation means addition of a hydrogen, where we are going to add a hydrogen across a double bond. In the presence of a nickel as a catalyst, you will get a ethane. So this is a example for a hydrogenation. Here, now what happened? Actually, generally if you are taking that, the ethylene, ethene as a pi bond. And here nickel as a vacant n-1 d orbital. This is a metal atom, vacant n-1 d orbital. So first what happened? The sigma bond in the hydrogen breaks. The sigma bond in the hydrogen breaks, and it is added to the vacant d orbital. That is metal atom only vacant d orbital. So the sigma bond breaks and the hydrogen atom is added to the vacant n-1 d orbital of the nickel. Then actually next the hydrogen is added across the partially broken pi bond of the alkene to form a alkane. So these things we are discussing under the category of a presence of a vacant n-1 d orbital. And second thing, the presence of a variety of oxidation state. How can you explain? Because number of a transition element or in the form of a compound we can use as a catalyst in many processes. For example, the oxidation of sulfur dioxide into sulfur trioxide. That is the oxidation of sulfur dioxide into sulfur trioxide. If you balance this, you get 2 here, you get 2 here. That will be carried out in the presence of a catalyst vanadium pentoxide. Okay, and this can be explained. This can be explained by using of a intermediate compound formation theory. That is intermediate compound formation theory. So what is this theory? Okay, so first we are taken two reactant and one catalyst. What are the two reactant means? One is sulfur dioxide and another one is oxygen. The catalyst we used vanadium pentoxide. Now in the intermediate compound formation theory, first sulfur dioxide will react with the vanadium pentoxide catalyst to form one intermediate compound. Then the intermediate compound reacts with one more reactant molecule, another reactant molecule oxygen, to form a compound sulfur trioxide. Okay, sulfur trioxide. Now we will see one by one. So first, if I am taking SO2, that is sulfur dioxide, reacts with the catalyst vanadium pentoxide. Okay, now I will show the oxidation state of vanadium in vanadium pentoxide. So this will exhibit, so here plus 5 oxidation states. Because if you take 2x plus 1 oxygen, it is minus 2. So you will get here, suppose if I am taking 2x plus 5 into minus 2 equal to 0. So 2x minus 10 equal to 0. So x equal to plus 5. So vanadium in the oxidation state plus 5. Okay. Now whenever these two, one reactant, first reactant reacts with the catalyst to give the product, here the product is vanadium, that is in the form of oxide and sulfur dioxide converted into sulfur trioxide. The name of this divanadium tetroxide, divanadium tetroxide. Okay, so now first product formed divanadium tetroxide act as a intermediate. Then next the intermediate V2O4, okay, that intermediate reacts with the second reactant molecule oxygen to form vanadium pentoxide. This is a catalyst. Okay, so after that reaction the catalyst should be regenerated. Okay, so to balance this, suppose V2O5. Okay, how can you balance? Here 2 oxygen, here 2 oxygen. So if I put 2 here, okay, so 8 plus 2, 10. So if I put 2 here, so 10 will be possible and 4 will be possible. So this is a balanced equation. Okay, the first step we have formed intermediate. And second step, from that intermediate, again we are getting a catalyst as a product. Okay, so far we have taken the catalyst should be regenerated. Okay, now in the first step I have taken vanadium pentoxide in the oxidation state of plus 5. If you are taking in the intermediate, the vanadium oxidation state is getting reduced, plus 4. So oxidation number is decreased. So that's why it is reduced, I said. The oxidation number should be decreased. Okay. And next, finally we have reached the catalyst. Okay. So here the state of oxidation changes. That's why I am telling this is exhibit due to the variety of the oxidation state. So this is an example to show how this variety of oxidation state. Okay. Now from that two equation, again how you are going to get a final step. So whenever if you are comparing these two, here I am getting 2 vanadium, that is divanadium tetroxide 2 molecule, but here only 1. Here I am getting the vanadium pentoxide 2 molecule, but here only 1. So I am going to multiply the totally the first equation with the 2. Okay, with the 2. So it is understood we are taking 2 sulfur dioxide, 2 vanadium pentoxide in the reactant side and 2 V2O4, here 2 SO3 in the next step. That is okay. So if I am taking this 2 vanadium, okay, divanadium tetroxide cancel, here 2 divanadium tetroxide cancel, Here 2 vanadium pentoxide, that is cancelled. Here also 2 vanadium pentoxide. So the overall reaction, we are going to get sulfur dioxide 2 molecule, because multiplying with the 2 sulfur dioxide plus here 2 oxygen, because so far the reactant side, the left molecule is like this, and next if you are taking 2 SO3 is remaining. So this is the overall reaction for the intermediate compound formation theory. So actually this theory involves in the presence of a catalyst. So here the catalyst only will deactivate the energy. So whenever they deactivate its energy, the rate of the reaction is increased. So this is well explained by using of a intermediate compound formation theory. Not only this, some of the examples also we are. Next we are going to discuss a few more examples how the transition element or a compound acting as a catalyst. First one, if you are taking hydroformylation of a alkene. Hydroformylation of alkene. Okay, formylation means introduction of a formyl group. So if I am taking a alkene like propene, okay, propene, when it reacts with carbon monoxide in the presence of hydrogen, and we are going to use a catalyst is CO2 8 times, okay, CO2, CO 8 times. Here I have used CO, di-gopal octacarbonyl. The name of the catalyst is di-gopal octacarbonyl. Okay, now whenever this propane adds to carbon monoxide and hydrogen, introduction of a formyl group. Formyl group is nothing but introduction of a CHO group. So the product you are going to get, the product, one is like this. So it has 4 carbon containing. So the name of the compound is 1-butanol. And one more compound you are going to get, okay, here 1, 2, 3 compound. So 2-methyl 1-propanol. So where we have used the interstitial compound, that is transition element compounds, by using of Gopal in the compound di-gopal octacarbonyl. Okay, so this is used as a catalyst. And if I am taking one more thing, preparation of acetic acid. Okay, preparation of acetic acid. So preparation of acetic acid from acetaldehyde. So the same thing, if I am taking acetaldehyde CH3CHO, acetaldehyde reacts with the CO in the presence of a rhodium or iridium complex. This is a transition element, rhodium or a iridium complex. You will get the conversion of acetaldehyde into acetic acid. So here we have used a transition element, rhodium or iridium complex as a catalyst. And next we are taking polymerization, that is polymerization of propylene. Okay, propylene. So propylene formula CH3CH double bond CH2. This can be carried out in the presence of one catalyst, that is Ziegler catalyst, that is the catalyst of combination of titanium tetrachloride plus aluminium compound, that is triethyl aluminium. That is triethyl aluminium. Ziegler-Natta catalyst. This is a polymerization product. Okay. So whenever this propylene undergo polymerization, by using of this catalyst, you will get a polymer like Suppose if I am taking, that is polymerization means we should take n number of molecules. So if I am taking n molecules of a propylene, we'll get polypropylene as a product, as a polymer, polypropylene as a polymer. That is also n times possible. So where I have shown this, the chain can be extended. If you are taking 2, 3 like that, the chain will be extended and you are going to get one type of polymer. Okay, so far we have discussed catalytic property due to variety of oxidation state, presence of a vacant n-1 d orbital. So this is based on the two theories. One I have explained about intermediate compound formation theory, and second theory we are going to see, that is adsorption theory. That is adsorption theory. So in the adsorption theory, we have reactant molecule. If you are taking a catalyst has a large surface area. When the reactant molecule comes and approach the catalyst, the reactant molecule forms a bond with the surface of the catalyst. And this is called the chemical force of attraction, where we are expecting a bond. So during that time, what happened, whenever the concentration of the reactant on the surface of the catalyst is increased, so the concentration of a reactant molecule then on the surface of catalyst increases, and because of that the catalyst deactivation energy decreases, and because of the decreasing in activation energy, the rate of the reaction increases. Okay, so the catalytic surface as a large, okay, and we have enough for the formation of a bond with the reactant molecule, and those form a bond on the surface of the catalyst, and that decrease deactivation energy. So because of the decreasing activation energy, we are increase the rate of the reaction. Okay, so we have explained intermediate, and second one as a adsorption theory. Okay, and next formation of alloys. One of the next property we are going to discuss, formation of a alloy. Okay, so what is alloy? So alloys is nothing but, if I am taking a metal can be blended with element. Can be blended with what element? So what are all the elements you can blend a metal? So the element can be possibility. The element you can take a metal, or the element you can take a non-metal, or the element you can consider both metal and non-metal. Both metal and non-metal. So the metal with the higher concentrations. So metal, anyway we are going to mix metal with non-metal or metal with metal like that. So metal with the higher concentration. We'll take it as a solvent. A metal with a smaller concentration. We take it as a solute. So we are going to discuss in terms of two factors. One is a solute and another one is a solvent. Okay. So if I am taking, this is alloy is a homogeneous mixture. Okay. Now what is the condition? So according to Hume Rothery, so scientists, okay, according to Hume Rothery rule, if you want to form a perfect alloy, okay, the whatever may be the metal and the non-metal, you should follow some rules. What are the rules to form a alloy? Rules to form a alloy. So first, okay, the solvent, one metal and a solute you are taking. Okay, solvent and a solute, whatever may be. The metal, you have to select the similar atomic size. Metal, you have to select metal with similar atomic size, not vary beyond that 15%. Not vary beyond that 15%. That the percentage will be less than 15%. Will be less than 15%. The atomic size will be. Second point, there are two things, that is a metal or a non-metal, whatever may be, as same crystal lattice. And third one, in between the two metal or metal with non-metal like that, the electronegativity difference. We have to take, it is close to 0. Electronegativity difference, it is close to 0. So these are the three conditions you should follow while the formation of a alloy. First one, metal with a similar atomic size, atomic radii, not less than 15% between solvent and solute. We have to take same crystal lattice, and the electronegativity difference, that will be close to 0. Okay. And next, if I am taking that, you can form a perfect alloy if you are obeying these conditions. Okay. Next, how the alloy is formed. So I said the lattice with a similar atomic size, even though it is similar in variation, one metal can replace with the another. That is, one metal will replace by the another metal in the lattice. So for example, if I am showing that this is a perfect crystal lattice containing, okay, like this. If I am taking, this will be a crystal lattice. Okay. So the metal with a higher concentration I will take as a M1, and with a lower concentration I will take it as a M2. Few molecules will be considered as M2, the remaining will be taken as M1, like this, because the concentration will be less. Like this you can expect the crystal lattice. So this is smaller concentration as a solute, okay, and this will be the higher concentration as a solvent. So higher concentration as solvent, lower concentration as a solute. Okay. So if you are doing like this, what happens? Generally, if I am taking a metal will be hard only. While you are mixing with the another metal, the hardness of the metal is increased. Because of that increasing hardness of the metal, this have high melting point. So what a high melting point. So alloys are harder than metal. Alloys are what? Harder than metal. So this is how the formation of a alloy will take place. And example for this, you will take ferrous alloy. Ferrous alloy containing iron as a component. Chromium alloy. You will take the example for the alloys. Okay. And next we are going to take formation of interstitial compounds. Formation of interstitial compounds. Okay, how can you get the interstitial compounds? If I am giving, if you take any metal crystal lattice like this, I have shown already, just if you are taking, this is a crystal lattice like this. Okay, like this, you take a crystal lattice. You know, this is actually site where you will have a perfect atoms are present. Here, you are taking this point is taken as a interstitial points. These points all are taken as a interstitial points. Okay. So in the perfect lattice, okay, in the perfect lattice, If I am taking a small atoms like carbon, hydrogen, like this, nitrogen. If I am trapping this small atom in the interstitial point of the metallic lattice, you are going to get a interstitial compounds. If I am trapping this element, suppose if I am trapping carbon here, I am going to get a, okay, here I have trapped carbon. Okay, so if I am trapping the small atom in the interstitial point in the metallic lattice, you will get a interstitial compound. Because of the formation of interstitial compounds, it has some peculiar properties. The properties are, first property we are going to give. These interstitial compounds have good electrical conductors and thermal conductors. Good electrical and thermal conductors, and because of that formation of interstitial point, they have high melting point comparing with the metal. High melting point compared with the metal. They are used as that is in the form of metallic hydrides. So metallic hydrides are used as a powerful reducing agent. Used as a powerful reducing agent. And the last, the metallic carbides are chemically inert. So this property can be arises due to the formation of interstitial compounds. If the interstitial compound, if you have it like this, it occurs a property of those. That is good electrical conductors, having a high melting point. Metallic hydrides are acting as a powerful reducing agent, and metallic carbides are chemically inert. Okay, next property we are going to discuss about formation of complex. Formation of a complex. A transition metal elements forms a compound with the species, particularly with the ligand. Species means you will take a ligand. Ligand possible varieties, you know, positive ligand, negative ligand and neutral ligands are possible. Metal, okay, forms a coordinate, that is coordinate covalent bond. Coordinate covalent bond, okay, with the ligand. Actually here the metal as a vacant d orbital. Okay, the species, that is so far we are containing a ligand as, okay, ligand as a electron pair. Ligand as a electron pair. Now what happened? In the metal, the vacant d orbital is created, and those vacant d orbital fully filled by the electron pair that is donated by the ligand. So from that we are going to get a formation of a coordinate covalent bond. The formation of a coordinate covalent bond from the donation of a electron from the ligand to the metal vacant d orbital. So I will show how the formation of a complex. So if I am taking a complex like this, okay, hexacyanoferrate complex this is, okay. Now how the formation of a complex? Here you will take metal as an ion. So this ion has a vacant d orbital, and here the species we are going to consider as a ligand. The ligand has a electron pair, and those electron pair donated to the vacant d orbital to form a bond with the metal. Okay. So first find out the oxidation state of a metal. So the oxidation state of a metal, you will take X plus the coordination number here 6 is 6 cyanide. 1 cyanide contribution -1, the valency will be, charge on the complex will be -4. So finally you will get X minus 6 equal to -4, X is equal to +2. So the ion in the oxidation state of a +2. So generally if I am taking an ion, the outer electronic configuration will be 3d6 4s2. So but d6 means in the d orbital, how many electrons are available? 6 electrons. So I will show 6 electrons. Next 2 electron will be in the s orbital. Okay, this is actual case of ion. If I am taking Fe plus 2, that is loss of 2 electron from the metal. So which electron first we lost? In the s. So you will get 3d6. So the possible only the 6 electrons in the d orbital. So this s orbital is vacant. In addition to that, we are having the p orbital, that is also vacant, in order to fill the electrons from the ligand. Okay, now you will take the what is the nature of the ligand. So here the ligand we have taken is a strong field. Okay, so this is a strong ligand. So a strong ligand means definitely pairing of the electron will be taken. It is a strong ligand. So definitely pairing of the electrons will be taken. Here there are 6 electrons. This will be paired here. This will be paired here, like this. The pairing will occur first. So we'll get in the formation of a complex. In the formation of a complex, okay, the d orbital electron first will be paired. There are totally 6. So first 2 is not unaffected, and the rest of things will be paired like this, and we are getting 2 vacant d orbital, and in additionally s orbital vacant, and extra p orbital also vacant. Now the metal is creating a vacant d orbital and s orbital, p orbital, like that. So first the ligand has how many ligands? 6. So 6 electron pair will be released, and those 6 electron pair will be entered into the vacant d orbital of the metal atom, vacant orbital of the metal atom, and it forms a bond with the metal. So here what happened? Cyanide gives, one cyanide gives 2 electron, another cyanide possible, and next, okay, all the cyanide Cn minus will give a electron. Cyanide ligand will give a electron, its electron, towards the vacant orbital of the metal. Okay, and on the whole, if I am taking how many the orbitals involved in the bond formation means, so only this involved in the bond formation. So you will get d2, 2d orbital, 1s orbital, and 3 p orbitals are involved. So the complex, the type of hybridization involved in the complex is d2sp3. Okay, d2sp3. Now I have taken only one complex. Just I have explained how the metal atom is creating a vacant d orbital and how the electron pair is entering into the d orbital. So far in this class we have discussed about a catalytic property, formation of a alloy, formation of a interstitial compounds, formation of a colored ions. Okay, thank you.